Hey there and welcome to today's video. Now if you haven't been to my channel before, my name's Adam and you can find me on Instagram at About a Van. I'm going to chuck that down in the description below. Anyway, today's video is going to be about taking your HGV test or your goods vehicle test. Now I've recently done mine and that's why I wanted to do this video, to share some tips and tricks with you. So in this video I'm going to run through how you do it, how you save yourself some money, and the best way about going to book it and the distinction between the two tests. So let's start on the distinction between the two tests. You've got C1, which is up to but not over 7.5 tons, and you've got C, which takes you anything up to around 32 tons without a trailer on the back. So when people talk about HGV tests and driving licenses, a lot of people assume that if you've got one, then you're going to be driving the big Arctics on the motorway. So that's a cabin trailer, and that's not the case. C is just rigid body only, so you won't be towing a trailer with a C license. But for most people watching this video, it's actually going to be substantially cheaper for you, and you're only going to need a C1 license. Now a C1 covers you for most things as it goes up to 7.5 tons, and most vehicles sit under 7.5 tons. Now you might be watching this thinking, why would I even want to take a C1? And the reason is, if you're converting vans, they very quickly get towards the 3.5 ton marker, which means by the time you've put a full tank of fuel in, your bike's under the bed, you've put water in the vehicle, and you've put passengers inside, you're very close to it. So if you're thinking about going away for extended periods of time and carrying a lot more kit with you, you may want to look at a vehicle that goes up to 7.5 tons. The vehicles themselves are usually cheaper as well, as the largest market is for 3.5 ton vans, and not many people have the C1 license anymore. Having the C1 license is also handy as it would broaden your career prospects. You could, for example, become a paramedic ambulance driver, or even a delivery driver up to 7.5 tons. So it does open up some job opportunities. Now if you go for the one above 7.5 tons, you might be looking at converting something like an ex-school bus, an American school bus, a large double-decker bus, a removals vehicle, or something like that. But like I said, the majority of people aren't going to want that, and they will never need to go over 7.5 tons. There is a huge benefit for staying on the C1 test, and that is cost. If you take it in a vehicle, if you take your C test, you're going to need to take it in an HGV, something that really looks like a big lorry. If you're going to take your C1 test, then you can essentially sit that in a Transit, a Mercedes Sprinter, or an Iveco Daily, if it has 4 wheels on the back and 2 on the front. And the reason for that is those vehicles can be loaded up to the required weight, which I think is about 5.5 tons. So as long as they can get a vehicle that can carry that, which one of those vehicles can, you'll be able to take it in what is a large panel van. Now, what I would say is, if you don't have any experience driving large panel vans, get some. And you don't have to do that by going to the test centre and getting them to teach you in a 7.5 ton van. What you can do is go and hire yourself a 3.5 ton van, but one of the extra long wheelbases. Something like the Transit with the extra long body, which is often referred to as the Jumbo, or an extra long Sprinter, or an extra long Iveco. And if you get used to driving one of those, they will be exactly the same as the 7.5 ton vehicle, but you will be able to do that at a much cheaper rate, as you'll just be paying rental fees rather than rental fees plus the instructor driving you around all day long, while all you're doing is getting used to driving a larger vehicle. So that would be tip number 1. Now, my second tip is doing a lot of the legwork yourself. So when you go to most driving schools, they'll say to you, leave it with us, we'll do the whole package for you, don't worry about anything, give us your driver's license number, and some of them really try and sell you hard, so you have to be careful. What they'll do is they'll take your driver's license number, they'll take your details, they'll go away and they'll book everything for you. They'll book your medical in, they'll book your theory in, they'll book your hazard perception in, and they'll also do all of your practical training as well. Now that doesn't come for free. They will do all of that at a cost. So if you want to save yourself a few £100s, then you can easily go away, book your own medical, book your own theory and your own provisional, and you'll save yourself a couple of £100s in the process. Now I'm going to tell you quickly how to do that, and if you check the description below, I'm going to put all the links in there for you. Now the process for these tests is exactly the same, so I don't need to go into C category and C1 category because all of the stuff before is the same and the test is more or less the same, it's just in a bigger vehicle. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to apply to the DVSA for a D2 and a D4 pack, and this is your medical. They'll send that to you, you'll go and get your medical done and you'll send it away. The DVSA will send you your license back with provisional entitlements on it, which means you can then start learning in that vehicle, and it also means you can start to book in your theory tests. Now, if you go to your local GP, I believe they're going to charge you somewhere around £150, mine wanted to, and the wait list is a lot longer. If you use one of the private HGV medical firms, they all charge around £50. They use GPs that run these medicals all day long, so they know which boxes to tick and fill out, and usually the waiting times are a lot less. So my advice would be not to go to your GP, and it would be to use a private firm that specialise in HGV and bus driver medicals. You send that off, you get your provisional entitlement. Now you can go away and you can book your theory tests. Now your theory tests is very simple. If you're not looking to drive as a commercial driver and all you want to do is drive this as a camper van or for yourself, you just need to do two tests. There's a multiple choice test and there's a hazard perception test. Now the multiple choice is just £26 and the hazard perception is £11. So all in all, you've got a total there of £87 to do your medical, your multiple choice test and your hazard perception test. Now, what you will need to do is buy some kind of a training package, and I'm going to put one of those in the link below. I'm not getting affiliate marketing pay for any of these. I'm just going to share my experiences with you. And the reason you're going to want to do that is this test is very different to car tests. Most of those questions are based around weight limits, stopping distances, loading restrictions, height restrictions, width restrictions, and driver's hours on HGVs, which means that you will not know any of those things from taking your car license. So I would highly recommend one of the providers that runs you through some mock tests, mock scenarios, and it really gets you ready and prepared to take the exams. Now, I think those training packages are around the £20 mark, which ends up costing you the same as the test. But the test can take a little while to get booked in, as they've got waiting lists at the moment and backlogs. So I would advise doing that up front, all your training up front, so when you take your test, hopefully, fingers crossed, you pass first time. Now, a word of warning to those looking to do this test: the standards of taking this test are far higher than they were when you did your car test. And hands up, I thought I was going to pass first time and I didn't. I'm a motorbike driver myself, so I'm always checking my blind spot, I'm always checking my mirrors, and I'm very cautious at junctions. I also am really good at sticking to the speed limits, but when I did my test, I made one mistake at a roundabout, which was I checked my mirrors as I moved away from the roundabout and not before, which made me fail the test. And it's something as small as that can make you fail. And if you do fail, the retest cost can be quite expensive. Now that's another bonus for taking your C1 as opposed to your C. If you fail in a C, which is the over 7.5 tonne bracket, a retest is around £500. Whereas if you do it in a vehicle smaller, you're going to be looking at about £200 to £300. So I hope you found this information useful. Like I said, please check out the description below. All the links are going to be in there. Check me out on Instagram at AboutAVan. My name's Adam. I hope this video has been helpful. Have a great day.